Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. This event is an open discussion called Foreign Language Learning in Virtual Environments. We're going to discuss the possibilities, challenges, and potential of learning in the metaverse. This event is a part of the Educators in VR UniVirtual Experience vLanguage Team Conference. It's a two-day conference. Yesterday was our first day, and today is our second and the last one. The conference is featuring expert educators, researchers, instructional designers, world builders, and more to explore the potential for learning languages in XR. We're the educators in VR vLanguage project team. Our project explores learning languages and art of language in the virtual learning environment. We host regular meetups, workshops, special events, and conferences on the use of spatial technology in language education and training. Amani and I are the leaders of this team project. Amani Al-Hayat is an educator, researcher, voice user interface designer, author, and teacher trainer. She's currently pursuing her doctoral degree in the instructional technology and media program at Teachers College, Columbia University. Her research interests include conversational AI, extending reality for education, immersive storytelling, intelligent NFTs, and decentralized autonomous organizations. I'm Ekaterina Semenyuk, known as Jingtri in Altspace, a teacher of English as a foreign language from Moscow, Russia. I have background in foreign philology, the history and development of languages, and I used to learn 8 foreign languages. My professional experience includes working with foreign adult students in Sydney and with kids in the Moscow region. And also, we have Laurel Van Vossen. She is the co-founder of the Educators in VR and the director of Educators in VR. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Yay. Excited.
Oh yeah, amplify.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Wait a second. Thank you. And just a brief reminder to our audience. It's an open discussion, which means that you're free to discuss everything with us at the same moment, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be discussing questions, and if you have anything to say, to ask, to add, to comment, to tell a story, please feel free to do that, because
And
that's
and hit the raise hand button because this is being filmed. We want to make sure that that your voice is heard on the film as well as everyone
Mhm.
in the room hears you. So you can use the raise hand button in the lower right corner.
All right. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that this conference so far has brought up so many discussion points. It has ignited our preconceived notions as well as um, opened up our hearts and minds to the diversity in using XR for education, but also um, teaching in general. Just the language learning is so important, and I'd love to, if we can. We're just talking before the show about why language learning is so critical. And Amini, do you want to introduce that again, because it was beautiful.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about why there are lots of language learning apps. Or probably this is what I see when I search for applications. There are more than other subjects like math, science, and uh, like STEM education in general. And I was like, we need, like, there are lots of people who want to learn languages out there, and even language learning, they have their own theories and frameworks, and it's been an interest for many professors and many educators many years ago. And in order for us to learn, in order for us to understand science and math, like when I was doing the GRE exam, which is math and English, if you're not on a certain level of English understanding and fluency, you won't be able to understand math problems. And I was talking about content and language integrated learning, which is called CLIL. And one of my friends, she's like leading in that. Her name is Haika, and she was one of our guest speakers yesterday. And the CLIL is an approach for learning content through an additional language, foreign or second. And I've seen that in America here, where um, when kids come from their countries, they take like the nicest lat exam. If they don't pass it, they spend 3 years of language immersion, in which an immersion here is different from immersion in virtual reality, where they have a teacher who supports their learning. So she's an ESL teacher, and at the same time, there's the math teacher, or sometimes the math teacher, the classroom teacher, she also has an MA in in TESOL. And because you need to understand students' background, prior knowledge, and things of the sort, which probably other teachers won't understand it, who are not trained to teach second language learners. And so, yeah, it's really beautiful that language always comes first. Like we learn language before, learning other things. And language also involves culture, understanding of culture, and things of the sort. Yeah.
That is so powerful because having traveled around the world and lived in places where I, you know, I couldn't even shop for groceries because I wasn't even reading anything that looked like my language in the alphabet was really, really fascinating and difficult because I was then relying on visuals. And that's something that
Oh,
VR does is to help
mm,
educate through visualization. And one of my favorite stories was that I saw my husband's favorite story, not so much mine, was that we were because I'm allergic to cigarette smoke, we would go out and we would get takeaway food and we'd eat in the hotel. And I started saving the plastic dishes and things, the throwaway dishes, and I would wash them in the sink. Well, I didn't, other than a bar of hotel soap, I needed dish soap. So I found a grocery. I looked at every single picture on the label and I found one that looked like bubbles were coming off of a plate. Brought it home, washed dishes all week. My husband then on the weekend when he had the day off, he was washing the dishes and he says, "This certainly doesn't have any lather. There's no bubbles to it." And I said, "Well, it's his, we were in Israel." I said, "It's Israeli dish soap." So he got out his dictionary and then started laughing and he says, "Honey, it's toilet bowl cleaner." I said, "Well, then there are very clean dishes." So it's because it was a
Oh my
white
god.
bowl looked like a white plate, and there were bubbles coming off of it, so I assume so that which brings us to an important point is that when we're teaching language in VR, because we're using heavy visuals, we have to be aware what's the difference between a plate and a toilet bowl because of perspective. It was a flat white surface, and I'd love to talk with you all about that process, about what your expectations are with it. And the first person we have up is Ramu. Hi, do you want to talk about learning languages in VR? Hey, Ramu, you have the megaphone. Hi, you want to join our conference discussion? Okay, I think Ramu's having some audio issues. So if you do have a question and you would like to join in the discussion, please hit the raise hand button and we would love to have you be part of the discussion because it's, this is what we're here for and we would love that. And we'd also love to hear your stories about learning language, whether it's in VR or otherwise. I think it would be really, we really want to hear about that as well. All right, we have Jawai, if I have that said right. Do you want to add to the
Yes,
conversation? Yes, about learning in VR?
absolutely. Good morning or
Good
good evening,
morning.
everyone.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm sorry that I arrived a little late
that's
to
all
the
right.
conference, but definitely I use VR not only to learn languages because I'm a language professor, but because I do believe that conversation is very powerful to get to know people around the world. And basically, I'm going to simplify this, to make my point. And in a nutshell, what I do is I foster conversations, including myself, with other interlocutors, talking about, more like as if I were a witness, and I give accounts about my life experiences, the real individual, because I do not appreciate too much, for example, debates on, for example, you see this in Facebook and TikTok and all these platforms. People wind up getting angry because they say, I'm Christian, prove me wrong, or, I believe in God, you know, I can prove it, prove me wrong, or things like that. So people just get angry. I mean, they don't really get to talk about themselves. They just give opinions of what they think that they like or they dislike, and they justify those opinions, but they don't give the real account, like what you were saying about the detergent or the soap,
Mm-hmm.
like the bowl cleaner and all that, like our life, our real experiences, like I have a neighborhood, I live in a house with my wife, with my son. This is the way we organize ourselves to, for example, do the wash, to keep a balance in our house. I mean, all those amazing stories that are different because each one of us, belongs in a different world, in a different country. So sometimes I'm thirsty of listening to the stories of the people in their real houses and lives. And I don't care whether you are abortion or pro-abortion or whatever. I'm not a woman. I do believe that if I had a friend and she was in the problem of that quandary, and then I would care about it. It's not that I'm being selfish. I rather listen to the real stories of the individuals. I don't appreciate debates about, hey, do you vote for Trump, or are you a supremacist, or
Right.
things like that. People just wind up getting angry and they don't get to know each other. I mean, they're just throwing evil to
Well,
each other, right? Sorry.
well,
Yeah,
yes
go
and
ahead.
no. I usually
Hmm.
I do think like you, but what's really
Hmm.
interesting is that just this morning I found an absolutely fascinating article and I've shared it on our Educators in VR Discord. It's in this news slightly off topic because I wasn't sure where it fit. But look, you brought it up right away. It fits in perfectly.
Mhm.
And
I'm
it is
glad.
on the Guardian this morning or today. It's called "You Can't Say That: How to Argue Better," and it's a beautiful, beautiful exploration of how to truly and effectively communicate with someone whose views may be different in a way that you both benefit. And it's one of those that I'm going to have to reread and process, but I think your point is exactly on track. It's about finding commonality and familiarity. I struggled in when I was learning Hebrew. um it's a whole long story, but I'm going to give you the very brief version. But um I needed to learn how to buy a stamp at the post office. I needed to learn how to get either sliced cheese or shredded cheese at the grocery store. I needed to be able to ask directions. These were really fundamental things that were important to my life when I was living in,
Mhm.
when I'm living in a country. I need to get around. I need to know how much something is. I need to understand the money. And instead I had a teacher that was harping on the alphabet. And I said, the alphabet doesn't help me. It's lovely. I'm
Hmm.
going to learn the alphabet, but right now I need to buy
Mhm.
cheese. I need to buy milk, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
um, and then she just went off on these, understanding the history of the language. The history of the language is beautiful. I want to learn the history of the language. I need some bread. you know, I need to ask directions. And it was such a bizarre learning experience because I kept
Hmm.
thinking it was me not getting it, and instead of getting it, the teacher didn't get how to teach it. It was a sad one of the
Mhm.
saddest experiences in my life. But that's what
Oh.
we need, is to
Hmm.
understand how do we first connect, and then how do we turn that into a conversation? Because the first thing we need is information, how to ask it, how to receive it. The next thing is conversation. So you're absolutely
Hmm.
right. It's beautiful. Thank you. I love
Yeah,
that.
Thank you.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. You actually raised 2 points, and I just want to add. So the first one is debate, and in the ESL classroom, especially like upper levels, we usually use lots of higher order thinking skills and
Mm-hmm.
train students to debate and write argumentative essays. But let's take two examples. I love Gentner's theory of comparisons, which also one of the things that I love it also if it's applied in VR. So um, um, discussing language, gender, or gender inequalities in a traditional classroom or even on Zoom versus gender inequalities in VR. And I actually created a simple VR experience, or it's not, it's like I designed something on VR, a frame VR for a novel that was written by um, a Norwegian playwright. His name is Henrik Ibsen, and it was about um, the gender inequality in the 19th century. And so I took the students. We had two scenes, and the first scene was like introduction to the metaphors, which is like using metaphor in VR, using the immersive effects or the 3D objects, and having students interpret that through their cultural point of view is also another dimension that VR brings into the classroom through culturally relevant pedagogy. So when we teach students how to debate and accept each other because we want them to focus on a growth mindset and not how to win. And at the same time, we also have to integrate culturally responsive pedagogy in which we also bring their identity and culture into the classroom. And this is what they do as one of the last activities. They kind of think of, okay, what does gender inequalities mean to them and mean in their culture? And so they look at some themes in scene two that relates to the metaphor, so that they understand, okay, what was gender inequality in the 19th century and what is it now in the 21st century, and they have to reflect on it by creating a simple immersive experience. So instead of just showing them things, they have to create, which is actually this is the highest item in Bloom's taxonomy, which is creation. The other idea that Laurel brought up is relatedness. How we construct meaningful education or meaningful learning in the classroom. And actually, I'm taking a French class. I've been speaking French like many years ago, but I stopped practicing it. And one of the classes were about holidays in Paris. And there were lots of things, awesome things, and we watched videos, but I was kind of struggling. What if she took us into a VR platform where we actually lived an experience in terms of what that we cook in I think it's 14th of July. It's the Victory Day for France or something like that. Or they also do different stuff in oh my gosh, I forgot. It's called L'Epoque, which I don't remember. So there are different holidays in Paris where, and you can see I couldn't retrieve the information. Probably if I experienced it in VR, I would, because I lived the experience, I was there. So this is kind of context-based learning, where you
Mm-hmm.
put the student in a context in which they experienced it, and then they try to construct things together. And there's also scenario-based learning where you put the students in a scenario, for example, okay, so you have relatives coming today, and some students may, so that's also role play, that the students are coming to visit you, and today is a holiday, whatever. And so, putting this, and we as teachers, we've done lots of things like that before, so it wouldn't be that difficult to be done in VR. Yeah, and I remember once I asked my students but to do an AR project, and they were level B. So it was kind of difficult for them, but I put them in groups. So some of them were able, when you collaborative learning is really powerful, where students rely on each other and they depend. So it's kind of an expert novice collaboration. And at first, which usually happens with all students, even if you use Kahoot, um, at the very beginning, no, why are we doing this? I said, okay, just work on it. Okay, it was past simple. They had to create a story using Book Creator, and Book Creator has AR, so you can actually upload AR objects from Sketchfab. And they didn't know why, and until it dawned on them, like, oh wow, and they were kind of showing off their creations and their stories because their stories were more important. But the AR objects were kind of scaffolding the experience itself. So yeah, I mean, XR is really powerful in making students live the experience or
Hmm.
try to scaffold learning more than just a textbook. Although I always feel like textbook is really helpful for teachers, but they can actually come up with certain ideas that can be done in VR, and then the students would really understand that because it relates to their learning as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. That is a brilliant example. Jawai, you had something to comment on that as well?
Yeah, sorry. May I speak now? Yeah.
Please, yes.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the floor. I'll be brief. It's very, very interesting what you have just commented on. I just wanted to give an anecdote. I met this guy from Canada speaking French because he's in the Quebec area where there are several islands. And so I also speak French, but Canadian French was always like daunting for me at the beginning because it is not like the kind of French that you listen to, or the accent from Paris and from Europe, right? But then I started speaking with him. I started also, like sharing this idea of a conversation based on our live accounts. And then he started, like sharing photos. I also shared photos. I mean, photos, very basic photos or all videos or maybe audio messages, because I was combining the fact that I had his contact on Messenger, and at the same time we would get connected on VR through big screen. And there, we would just meet there and start speaking about things, and about our mothers, our family, our wives. Just little by little, we grew, this relationship, and it was amazing. He also gave me this account, for example, for the funeral of his mother, and he showed me, and I was asking him, and he showed me the photographs of how the whole ritual takes place in Canada. He described the reception, the church where they went to see it. He showed me like the food they eat, and he also, for example, gave me once the account of the this syrup that they prepare from maple, from the trees there in Canada. And it's just beautiful on how, if you like start sharing experiences of like the real, things that you do every day, like the places that you hit, the local market, the streets, how the streets go. And yeah, VR is amazing. The app Wonder, the app Big Screen, this app. So I just wanted to share this. There are other things that I can comment later on, but I don't want to hog the microphone. I mean, I just totally agree with what you said. And this idea of like uh, downloading from Sketchfab, or I even thought about buying a scanner, a 3D scan, in order to like put in 3D some of the objects that I have at home, like some flower vases, and so that I could actually bring them onto 3D in order to share them with my friends. But well, this is to be continued. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a
Beautiful.
powerful comment.
And and it is, there's something magical about moving from buying bread and cheese to actually having a conversation. And it just helps open up hearts and minds so lovely. So we had some discussion topics also. Gingery, what's next on the block to help us keep this conversation rolling?
Maybe let's talk about any challenges you can meet while you're, I don't know, trying to implement your technology, or you're trying to implement it into your curriculum, or you're thinking about how to build the whole teaching plan, or maybe while you are already doing it, what challenges do you meet if you teach adults or if you teach children? Mm, what do you
Ooh,
think?
so what are the challenges for teaching in VR or just in general?
Yeah.
In VR. Oh, lots and lots of challenges. So if there's any educators here, hit the raise hand. Or, educators, we choose, at Educators in VR, we choose the word educators instead of teacher a lot of the time because we believe that everyone has an internal teacher, but the word teacher has a professionalism that's associated with it. So everyone educates. You don't need a degree to call yourself a teacher because if you help one child learn a word, or you help someone across the street, or you help somebody figure out how to move in this frustrating VR system, are you are teaching, you are educating people. But what are the frustrations here? How many, what have you found for you?
Oh. um,
The list is long.
Yeah.
yeah. So I first started a special interest group at New York State TESOL, and I was very enthusiastic about VR, but some of the administration were like, why VR? Teachers are not ready and stuff like that. So one of the things is that administration, they usually have certain assumptions about teachers, or they don't have educational background, or probably they live in their own bubble, so they don't want to they don't want change, okay, or they don't want to discuss anything that relates to change or improving. Probably they want to improve education, but they might think that no, this won't work. This is too much for teachers. And I usually turn a deaf ear, so I didn't listen to them, and I kept going. And I was so lucky that I connected with educators in VR, so Laurel, Michael McDonald, Katrina, and also Dr. Dayton. And one day I invited Michael, and I had many people from New York State TESOL, like the leadership, and they attended. And um, Michael was explaining how to create Mozilla hubs. And one of them, her son was sitting next to her, and he went crazy. He was like, "What is this? Is this a game? What its name? What are they doing? What are these avatars?" And after that day, I had the green light, move forward, do whatever you want. and I got support, and I actually invited lots of guest speakers, to the extent that I had teachers commenting in Zoom, because it was kind of like, okay, so we're gonna take them to VR. We're gonna take them to VR. And they said, "Oh wow, we had assumptions about VR, that it's expensive, it's difficult. We were gonna do that in VR. We're gonna create classes, or like take our students to VR." And so it was actually eye-opening. And one day I took the educators, the professors, the teachers. We were hosting something, and actually Laurel, she was the host in Alt Space. And I think you got lots of questions. And you took us that day to COVID world, which was
Mm-hmm.
really fantastic, like teaching science. And imagine that you also you can teach, like in second language learning, we teach lots of things. Like one of the last classes that I taught was about Mars. How would you go to Mars? And my
Oh, how
students at the very
wonderful.
beginning, that's Pearson North Star. And my students, they said, well, yeah, of course, we want to go to Mars. And I wish I took them to Engage VR or any VR platform where we can show them okay, so in the book they said that's lack of oxygen. So it was about Mars One, which they declared bankruptcy many years ago, and they wanted people to build the infrastructure in Mars. And I told them about my kids. I actually so my son, my oldest son, he was in in a school, in engineering school, where NASA they do competitions every year, or probably I don't know, but that year there was a competition. And what the students did is actually they created a 3D model of settlements in Mars. And my son, who was the one who
Oh,
did
how
the 3D
cool.
model. So the students started to do the research and stuff like that. So they were in teams, ones who do the research and the other who take the research and then apply it into a 3D model. So it was really amazing that also how big institutions, they also pay attention to 3D models. I don't remember the application that he used, but it was really interesting, making students create their own 3D model of living on Mars. And that was a science, and students, ESL students, were also part of it. Yeah, so I think if students understood and like what are the possibilities, they could also make us explore topics like, okay, so what are the things that we did on Earth, the catastrophes or climate change and stuff like that, how we could actually make students understand what climate change is in VR, instead of just talking about it verbally or showing them videos or pictures. How can we make them understand, and how can we make them have agency, which I loved yesterday when some of the panelists talked about agency in VR. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love it. Like, I just want to share something because I love it so much. It's a movie. It's a
Yeah.
movie, and I always talk to the producer. I'm a member of his organization. His Edward Such. He's one of the co-founders of Oculus Studio. They came up with an idea, agency in VR, and they launched a movie that was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It's called Wolves in the Walls. And this idea was like, every time I'm in an XR meeting, I would say, we need agency. It's not presence only now. It's agency. We need the users to do something, not to be in the shoes of others. Yeah, we have to do something.
Absolutely.
And in this movie, you actually, the major character in this movie, which is Lucy, she would ask you to do things, and I couldn't figure out why she's asking me at the very beginning, until I realized. So she wants me to do something like fill jars uh, with uh, with marmalade. What's it called? Oh my gosh.
Jam?
Mm-hmm.
With some jam, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Jim.
And
Marmalade, we know. Yeah.
yeah,
To help
and
her to find
and
wolves.
I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
like, why the heck I'm doing this. Why she's asking me, and I'm doing, and she said, my mother doesn't see you, just keep doing it. And then I filled the jam, and then I put it on the counter, and then all of a sudden the wolves come in, and then they eat the jam, and then they escape. And that was one of the things in the movie, that yeah, the wolves
Interesting.
exist,
Yeah.
and this is how I'm going to help her. So I'm in the movie, I'm helping her, I'm an actor in the movie, which
I
it
love
was really
it.
great, amazing. I love this movie so much.
How
So
wonderful.
yeah,
Tell us again what it's called.
Wolves in the Walls. It was
Wolves in the
actually
walls.
walls, yeah.
Wolves
Mm-hmm.
in yeah, wolves in the walls. Oh, that is
You
wonderful.
can get it
I
on
need to check
Steam,
it out.
I guess, and on Quest.
Excellent. Excellent. Now we're all going to race out and do that. But after today's conference, all right, we have some other people who have some
Yeah.
comments. Um, Ramu, yes, you're up again. Would you like to say something? Add to the conversation? Hi.
Hi, ma'am. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Would you like to add to the
Hello.
conversation?
Hi. Just now you are telling that about world is world. Hello.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is the main thing of this movie?
It's wolves in the walls.
Yeah,
Wolves
yeah, yeah.
in
Worlds in the
the
worlds.
walls. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, what
All
is the
right.
main thing?
What is the main thing? What is this meeting about?
Uh,
Is that what you're asking?
What is the moral from
Oh, the moral
movie?
in the movie. What's the moral? Is there a moral in the movie? That's not, well, the moral's likely not
Uh,
important to our subject, what we're talking about,
yeah,
which is about interactivity and learning languages in
yeah.
in
I was just
VR.
talk. Yeah, I was just talking about agency in VR.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how a company designed a movie in VR where you're not only present, but you're also active and interactive. And this also relates to theories in language learning and sorry, not language learning, learning in general, learning theories, active learner and interactive learning. And so this is what I was just referring to is that how we can design or we can think of experiences that students can use in order to be active learners, and then probably they can come back to school or do a writing piece or give a presentation about their experience. So it's something that could be also great for language learning.
Excellent. So hopefully that helps. Because
Mhm.
agency is that, think of it as interactivity in a way, but it's ownership of your actions. And
Yeah.
that's a simplified way to explain that. Joey, you're up. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah, thank you. Highway
Great.
is fine or Daiwi is fine. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Yeah, we started this new stage of the conversation now on challenges, right? So
Mhm.
Mm.
let me accept your. This is awesome that you have that I have you as a new friend, Laurel. Thank you so much. I would love to also have your contacts so that we can also, like keep up and in
They're right up on the
engaging in
walls right
conversation.
here.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean it's part of the frustration that I would like to comment on as this is talking about challenges. In a nutshell, long story short, I proposed because I am giving classes for more than 300 people in a logistics company from Denmark. But I'm not gonna reveal the name of the company because I don't want to put them on the spotlight. But I had these meetings with two of the directors there, and I said, well, look, I give English classes, but I think that we should use the headsets. They are not expensive. It's $299. I know the company has a lot of money to buy that, and I just tried to explain how powerful the VR headset can be, and that we can like see 3D objects. You can access
Mhm.
videos. You can access documentaries. For example, there's the
Familiar argument. Familiar defense for it.
Mm.
yeah, Gingery, thank you. I accept your
Yeah.
new friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the point is this: I try to explain that it is, we can be watching a 3D video, for example. We can be flying on the International Space Station, or we can just be, visiting a container yard. I mean, talking about logistics, and we can explain things. We can see, we can discuss, and but it's difficult. There's like a banal idea about the VR headset, that it is just for killing zombies or for kids. It's just for playing, It's more like even when you say I'm gonna create a party, right? You can create a party from your home, from your Oculus home. I think there's a problem with that concept because when you are creating a party, apparently, the idea is we're gonna have fun because we're gonna be together, right? But then that doesn't really allow for like, hey, let's watch some videos that can be very interesting and let's try to have a conversation, a little. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant. I want to sound like, let's try to speak about science, or let's really try to talk about the International Space Station, or, terraforming in Mars, or, I mean, it can be or chemistry or mathematics, It's not just like having party and we're just going to chill out. And so unfortunately, there's this idea of chilling out that somehow banalizes the VR experience. And it's kind of frustrating because then it is very difficult to find people. I mean, besides the trolls and the people, and I understand sometimes kids, they are very much on their own, and they come in the form of silent avatars, and they don't really interact too much, or they just they are drawing penises, and they are trying to call attention, disrupt the conversations and all that. I mean, this is happening, this, right? This is
Yes,
common
we
in V.
very
So sometimes the frustration is like, well, I understand that what I gotta do is try to make a friend list with people who I can really, rely on to have some real conversation. I mean, I can
Do
sometimes,
you see this sign right here? How's that? Is that a good starting place?
it is amazing. I mean, I'm just going to finish very soon.
I know. Go
What
ahead.
I'm going to try to say is we need to sort of like, sometimes we need conversations of a certain level, of a certain type. And so we need to create groups with reliable interlocutors that that they are not going to banalize what you say, and that they are really open to speaking about different things and delving deeply, because sometimes that's my frustration with VR, that we need to find our real friends, quote unquote friends, people that we can really, have that degree of conversation that we would like to have sometimes, right? And I
Agreed. Absolutely.
just that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really find it sometimes difficult to when people tell stories about um, certain experiences in VR, like Rec Room, for example. So I was talking to this someone, and he said, "No, no, no. I'm not sure about your experience, but my experience in Rec Room or in other VR platforms wasn't that good." And I really am so grateful that I usually join groups. So for education, you will find lots of groups within educators in VR, um, researchers in VR, vLanguages, and other groups, which like every time you attend, you find people very respectful. There are lots of people out there, admins, and who make sure that no intruders come into the place. And also for playing games and stuff like that, I also join other groups for ladies in VR, where I go to Rec Room and I go to VR chat and I find no problems. So I really find groups or friends so that they can enjoy VR, and it's really also a learning experience, because one of the things that we talk about in learning theories is grounded cognition. And grounded cognition means you can actually be in VR, okay? You can have the best experience, but guess what? Some people have PTSD, anxiety, and they will miss out on that learning. So how we can make this VR environment interesting to students who also suffer from certain mental illness. And actually, I used to have anxiety, and I have anxiety more on Zoom than in VR. And yeah, I no longer have anxiety in VR. I mean, VR made me overcome such anxiety because of immersion, because of many factors. So yeah, I agree with you.
Gingery, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with the money. Like partly, I'm not still there, like super calm. But I have this public speaking anxiety, and the more I practice, like hosting, etc., the more confident I get, because it's still really immersive, especially through the VR device. You're like really experience it, and you get less and less stressed. So I'm getting there.
No,
Also
you're doing
wanted
great.
to
Go ahead.
yeah, wanted to add about the device, like
Mhm.
how to talk like teachers and other people into the idea that VR is not a gaming thing, that you probably can say that it's just a tool, so it's not a game itself. You choose to play games or not to play them. Like I don't know, you use a bat to play a baseball or to rob someone. So it's up to you, really. It's just a tool, and it's up to you how
Or
how to
defend your
use it.
home.
And it's a great teaching tool. So it's a technology, and you can find lots of things that you can use
Oh,
in your teaching.
God, I love you.
Pretty much
I love
any
you. That is
subject.
a
Yeah.
wonderful analogy, the baseball bat analogy. Um, when I'm talking to, I developed this a few years ago. I and I have to be very careful because there's, sensitivity to it. But I ask. I said, um, in a kind, gentle way. Have me ask, is there anyone here would, if you don't have to answer, but who has a disability? Um, and people, like one or two will show you. And I said, really? Well, I have a disability because I wear glasses. I cannot see without glasses. And then I go, oh, I don't think that's a disability, And then it changes the conversation to VR. In order, there are people who are visually impaired who cannot see in the world in any way, shape, or form. They put on VR, and the plane of focus is so close to their eyes, they can see. They actually, blind people can see when they, with specific forms of blindness and visual impairness. And for them, VR opens up an entire world that they knew existed, but they couldn't see it. And when I equate the VR headset to another pair of glasses that allows you to see the world in a new way and interact with it in a new way, it calms people because it's just another aided, assistance device is the glasses. Now we take glasses for granted. Boy, those used to be really, really rare and special, only the rich people had them, and now everybody can get a pair of glasses. Same thing as with VR, is that we're moving in that direction, and there are contact lenses that are in developed by Mojo Vision, where it's designed to have AR, but they're working on covering enough of the eye with a contact lens that they can black it out and bring in VR. So it's a dark background because it's the light that, causes the issues, and allow a completely immersive experience to be blended with, have that option to switch between the augmented as well as the mixed with that. So we're moving in that direction. But right now, we have to put up with, I'm not putting that on my face. You keep that thing away from my face. I'm not putting that on my face. And I'm like, okay, all right, get over that. It's a pair of glasses, folks. It's just a big pair of glasses. Imagine you're scuba diving. I've used that too. It's really interesting because it is opening up, you have to open up those hearts and minds. I keep saying that, but that's what it is. You have to understand that it's about those experiences, but you have to just cross that first bridge to do. So we have a couple more people who want to add. Ramu, would you like to add again to the conversation? We'd love to hear from you, Ramu.
Hi,
Hi, hello.
hi everyone. Hello,
You
are you hear me?
Yes, you hit the raise hand
Uh,
button. You want
I,
to
wa-
yeah, something you want to
I
say?
want to introduce myself.
Okay.
My name is Shiva. I am from India. Mainly, I am joined this conference because I don't speak English fluently because uh, mainly I don't know how to speak fluently. I lost so many chances. Be lack of English. Please tell me how to speak fluently.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. This is a conference for people who teach language learning and are exploring all the possibilities and all the different ways that we can do that in VR. And so you're like one of the students. We appreciate that you're here and you want to expand your language. And Amini and Jidri, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah.
No, no, you.
All
We
right. Well,
also
we're
have
glad. Yeah,
JV.
Amini. Oh,
To
what?
answering that, sorry, your question about this question, how they can improve their English.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's usually speaking and writing are productive skills, okay? And you can't speak or write without being exposed to listening and reading. and also some kind of practicing that in with a native speaker or a near native speaker. And so exposure to listening sometimes may not work. So look for probably yeah, I don't want to be just focusing on VR, whatever is available to you. But for me, I prefer like a guided experience where I can do something in VR, where I listen to something and then I can do, so that this merges two thinking skills, the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills. So it's mainly kids. So second language learning theories are based on first language learning theories, which is kids, they were born, they don't speak, but they start listening and watching people interact until they have a good reservoir of vocabulary, and then they start saying a word, then two words, and then complete sentences. So you have to be patient as well when learning a language. It wouldn't come in a day or two, but you have to be persistent and learning vocabulary through context. So even immersing yourself in a VR platform, trying to learn about things or reading a book. So this is really very useful.
Mhm. When my husband decided he wanted to learn Spanish years ago, he did so because someone in his apartment complex, he was fresh out of college, out of university, was from Latin America, and he wanted to be able to communicate with him beyond. The man was an engineer, so he was fluent in English, but he wanted to understand his language. So he decided he would read a book in Spanish to learn Spanish, and he chose Don Quixote. That just right there tells you so much about me. That's a brutal book to read in any language, let alone one that is not your own. So he sat there with a dictionary and he read Don Quixote in Spanish and learned
Mm,
learned Spanish by reading Don. Is insane methodology. But um, you know, the key is to surround yourself, as she beautifully said, with
mm,
language from everywhere. Read. For example, if you were learning, when my husband was improving his Spanish years later, he started reading the Spanish version of CNN, because then he could see it in English and the stories in English and translate in Spanish. And if he couldn't figure out a word, he could translate it back and forth. But it was immersive
mm,
for him because he would put himself right into reading the whole front page of CNN in Spanish, and then he would, work on that. He did the same thing with Hebrew and reading the books, listening to the podcast, listening, the audio. There
mm.
wasn't VR in those days, but now VR, you have a
Yeah,
chance to walk through the cities and to, you know, experience those things, which we're going to be doing later today. So we only have a minute or so left. Do you want to tell us what's coming up for the rest of today's conference?
Yeah, sure. The next event is going to be a poster session called Educational via Dreams and Failures. It is showcasing educational language learning via projects, and our special guests will share their stories about creating and developing the educational projects, as well as their goals and dreams, fears and hopes. It's going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is in 3 hours from now. So we'll have 3 hour break and we'll meet at 10 a.m. there. Thank you.
wonderful.
And then later today, we have a tour. Amini, you want to tell us about Frame VR?
Oh yeah. Uh, so I'm doing my doctoral in instructional technology, and I was exploring how to create an instructional technology experience in Frame VR for educators. And I used certain techniques that we use as classroom teachers, so, like Jigsaw Technique, for example. And so we know that the Jigsaw Technique is it's like you divide students into groups, and then you just give them a piece of information, and in which they become experts. The other students, you give them another piece, and the other students, you give them another piece, all groups they become experts in one thing, but then they are novices in the other pieces of information, and then they come together and then they educate each other. And so, although Frame VR would did not help me much uh, to do the things that I want, and we know we can work around. So I try to create certain mechanics in that for that experience. I also supplemented it, like embed. So it's based on scenario-based learning, in which you read a scenario and then you start looking for marbles, knowledge marbles, so that you educate yourself. Then there are gems also, which kind of they give you, like you kind of answer some questions so that you can get coins. And once you finish learning about these objects and discussing with your teams, you go to and it's like you go to scene 2, where you find um, like a magic portal where you go to another experience. So yeah, so I've been trying to work around how to design this experience in Frame VR because it's more accessible to teachers. You just hit the URL and then you are there, you interact. And one of the beautiful things that Frame VR did was they also integrated Ready Player Me, which I love so much. So you will have legs in Frame VR. I guess so. I don't remember because I'm in spatial and the others, so I don't remember, and I don't see myself in Frame, so I don't remember if I. Yeah, I do have. You do have legs. Yeah,
You have
you
character
do have
legs.
legs also in Frame. In Frame, yeah, and they have beautiful avatars, and so you interact with objects. You see animations and stuff like that. Yeah, and try to look for, because I put fake marbles everywhere because not everything is clickable. So there are certain marbles that you have to click search for and click so that you can find information that would get you out. So it's kind of
Spoilers.
an escape room game. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love spoilers.
Hmm. Awesome. We are so looking forward to that.
Impressive. You're looking forward.
Yay. Well, thank you
Yeah, thank
all
you.
so much for being a part of this open discussion. Thank you all for contributing.